This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Nice fade out there, Keith. Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday and Happy New Year to everybody out there. Hope you're safe and happy last night. Hope you had a great time, whatever you did with your family or friends. I'm not much of a party. I'm 62 years old. I'm 63 soon. I'm in my 63rd year. My wife gets crazy when I say that, but we'll be 63 soon enough. But I have never been a New Year's Eve guy. I mean, I've gone, on those younger parties, but I probably haven't gone to a party in 35 years. Out to dinner early last night, one of our favorite Italian restaurants, bottle of wine. Unfortunately, it was all mine because my wife drinks 2 sips and the rest is mine. So we had a nice time. Been home. I was keeping track of the Michigan TCU game on my phone and home for the second half of that great game. With Ohio State and Georgia as well. Congrats to the Bulldogs with a chance for their second consecutive national championship. And congrats to TCU, who, shocked the world might be a little bit much. But, Michigan shot themselves in the foot. But at the end of the day, they gave up 51 points. We'll talk about this because I know we had some comments in one of my group chats last night. Good morning, Rick. Good to have you. Congratulations to your Bulldogs and Happy New Year. To you and your family as well. Hope you had a great holiday season. It's not over yet. Today's New Year's. Tomorrow's observed New Year's Day for most of us. And the decoration get to stay up for one more week. The Epiphany isn't until Friday. Friday. Yes. So anyway, listen, we're going to talk today a lot about the college football semis yesterday. Talk about some opinions. I want to talk certainly the NFL playoff picture. Maybe a little bit of Major League Baseball. And I also want to talk, so you guys think about this as we go along. When we get to this part of the show, or throw it out at any point, I'll make a note. I want to talk about some of the top stories, both on and off the field of play in 2022 in our second part of the show. We'll see how much time we have. I know sometimes we get on topics and we don't have time for that. But anyway, we're heading into New Year. 2 great games last night. We'll get into that. Thank you for everybody for following the show this year. Please get out there and continue to invite your friends. Go to TGI Sports Talk. Hit the little 3 buttons up there near the top on the top tab, or top banner. You'll see 3 buttons there. And you can invite your friends. Just don't invite them all at once because Facebook doesn't like that. So we thank all of you. I thank all of you that are watching today. I thank all the groups that have allowed me to share the show through the course of the year. A lot of new groups, a lot of great groups. And we wish everybody a happy and healthy new year. College football playoff. TCU and Georgia going to the final. Ohio State, I said before the playoffs started, that TCU might, here we go again. Georgia might have got a bad draw here because Ohio State was the team that could match up with them athletically the best. And you saw that last night. That athleticism finally matched up with the way they played on the field. They played a great game. C.J. Stroud probably played his best game of this season. The defense was not good for the most part, but neither was, they found a way. I give Ryan Day all kinds of credit. We'll talk more about Ryan Day in a little bit, too. Ryan Day coached a great game because Georgia's still got a very good defense, but the way you beat them is to throw the ball down the field, down the middle of the field. And he found ways to get that done and challenge that secondary, which was a Georgia weakness. They scored 41 points. And it's interesting because I was trying to watch the game, hoping to get over by midnight because my wife is sitting there wanting to watch the ball drop. And I switched over. I put the game on my computer at the end as Ohio State was driving. and had the ball dropping on the big TV. And it was only a second off, I think, hitting hitting the midnight, and the poor kid from Ohio State missing the field goal. That poor kid. What's his name? I'll catch it later. I feel bad for him. I really do. Good morning, Drew. Happy New Year to you. Great to have you with us this morning. Talking some college football. We'll get into some NFL and Major League Baseball as well. And again, as I said at the top, guys, think about, and you can throw them out when you want. I'll make a note. But at some point in the show, I want to get into a little discussion of top stories in sports in 2022, both on and off the field. Big stories off the field as well as on. So there's lots to chat about, and we'll throw some of those topics out later. Major League Baseball will have a conversation, but there's not a lot to talk about because not much happened over the holidays. A couple of major trades and signings, but college football is where we're at today. What's Rick got here? Jim Jeffcoat is the best, right? Even if he goes a Cowboy, Jim's the best, and he's really got a great take on the game, both having played it and from a common sense standpoint as well. And you saw today that we talked about some injuries, and I saw your comment, Rick, and thank you for going there. But we talk about it a lot. That guys there's no contact. I don't know if it's the same thing in college. I think it is, though. I don't think these kids are playing with pads all the time. And you know what? You're not used to getting hit. Maybe that's by Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison, they took his helmet away from him yesterday. He wanted to get back in the game. He went in the concussion tent. And I really think this hurt Ohio State. Obviously, it hurt Ohio State in the fourth quarter, not having that weapon available to him. Because in my mind, he might be the best wide receiver in the country. And also very interesting in this game, later on, and it's about the time the announcers kind of talked about it. The Michigan tight end, Rick, what the hell is his name? Can we find it here? I know you'll find it, but let me go back to the box score here. Oh, this is annoying. Is it going to do this every time? Ugh. That is so freaking annoying. Got to go back to the bottom of the page every time. Georgia did not make much use of Brock Bowers. That's his name. I knew his name until the fourth quarter, and then he became a force. 4 catches, 64 yards. He made a great play on a first down. There was a couple of interesting plays there. That was a play that really was a difference maker, right? I mean, the play was called short. They reviewed it. What a great effort by Bowers. I believe it was Bowers to stay in bounds and get the ball across the marker on a drive where Georgia scored a touchdown. And then Kirby Smart, or whoever it is that alerted Kirby Smart, when Ohio State on their second to last possession had a fake punt for a first down. So well designed, and I think it got called down from upstairs, right? But Kirby Smart got that time out in just a split second before it was too late. So two really defining plays in that game went Georgia's way. And again, that's why Kirby Smart's one of the best coaches. And again, not just because I'm not saying he sniffed it out himself, but great coaches put great coaches around them. Somebody saw that. Special teams, Rick, we talk about it all the time. That was great special teams coaching because they saw what was coming. You know, and there were some plays, and we'll jump around these two games. We don't have to stay on one at a time. In the TCU Michigan game, I know there was some chatter last night. I don't think Kenny's with us yet, but I don't even know if Kenny made the comment because I was tired and when I was catching up on them. But talking about the Michigan TCU game, Michigan shot themselves in the foot. There was a couple bad plays in the game. I agree. Michigan should have got a touchdown on the one long pass in this. I think it was in the second quarter, and they didn't score. But first of all, listen, you get the ball like on the 1 yard line. You got to be able to put the ball in the end zone. And second of all, You don't give up 51 points and then tell me the referees beat you. The better team didn't win yesterday, guys. Michigan might be the better team. Michigan might be the better team. They were not yesterday. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. You don't get to play 2 out of 3. You got to play one game. I can relate to this, as I've used this analogy many times. In 2007, my team was 17-0. No, sorry, 18-0. They were the best team. On paper, they played 10 times. They would have been the best team 9. That day, they were not the best team. They were outplayed, outcoached, and everything else. So let's not take anything away from TCU. Michigan didn't play well. Part of that's due to what TCU did. Took them out of the game, scored early. I give Michigan credit for coming back in this game. They could have folded up the tents here a couple of times. But the big issue was they fought back, but every time they pulled close, they'd give up a big play. TCU would score in one time they scored on the first play of the drive. Another time it was 2 or 3 plays down the field for another touchdown to extend their lead. They could never take control of the flow of the game. TCU controlled the flow of that game from the outset. We talked about it just a few minutes ago on Mac and Jack. TCU plays like that. TCU plays with their hair on fire all the time. They were used to that. Double reverse at the 2-yard line. That is a horrible call. Oh, my God. You know, and Jim Harbaugh, by the way, I put this all on Jim Harbaugh, right? And whether Jim probably not calling the plays anymore, but he still has the last say. And, you know, you could easily say, what the hell are you doing? And overrid that play. We're not running that play on the 2-yard line. So again, you know, referees make mistakes just like the rest of us do, or the players do. Don't tell me they lost that game because of referees. They made too many mistakes of their own. Good morning, CA. Good to have you with us. Happy New Year to you and your family, your Dart family, and hope everything's going well if you're at the championships today. Anthony Price, good morning. Good to have you with us this morning. Happy New Year to you and your family. Hope everything you've had a safe and happy holiday season. We're happy to have you with us. Hope you enjoyed watching those games. Listen, we talked for God, how long has the playoff been around now? I don't even know. 10 years? But every year the semifinals seem to be stinkers for the most part, at least one game, often both of them. This was, unless you like defensive football. You know, I wish these games were the aberration rather than the rule, but you know, this is the way college football is today. They were exciting games. You know, I mean, you had mistakes. You had great calls. You had some great, as I said, great coaching decisions. You had great individual effort by Bauer on that first down. You had that great call by the Georgia coaching staff on the fake punt. And Georgia showing the medal of champions, by the way. And I said this going into this playoff as well. And I bet Ohio State yesterday, by the way, but I didn't think they were going to win the game. I was okay with them winning. It wouldn't have bothered me. I did pick Georgia to win the game. I bet Ohio State +6. Also bet Michigan -7.5. I'll tell you another story after about one of the other games yesterday. But these were exciting games, and I forgot where I was going with that comment. Oh, Georgia and their championship medal. I said before going into these playoffs, Stetson Bennett was the X factor here, because Stetson Bennett, I mean, we talk about Tom Brady playing with a chip on his shoulder. This kid has got to have been playing with a chip on his shoulder his whole career. He's a walk-on quarterback, and every year, I think he's been there at least 4 years. He might have been there 5. Stetson Bennett, they try to give a job away every year. Kirby Smart admitted as much. We always tried to find somebody better. All he's done is win won one national championship, got a shot at two, put Georgia in position to win another one before they actually won their first. Congratulations, Stetson Bennett. This game yesterday, and again, I think there's still one to go. I get it, but this game yesterday, I think, is the perfect illustration of what Stetson Bennett brings to this Georgia team. Great job. Pound for pound was one of the toughest athletes. I'll definitely agree with that. Kenny was not a big guy, man, but he certainly put his body on the line. I've seen it on the golf course. The man plays with no shoes, for crying out loud. But Stetson Bennett has no fear. Great job by Stetson Bennett. And he will not play. Rick, you said it last night. He has no future in the NFL as a backup or anything else. But that doesn't diminish the fact that he wins back-to-back championships. How many quarterbacks in college have actually done that? I'm trying to think of the teams that won back-to-back. And if they even had the same quarterback, I bet you there aren't too many, if any. I'll check it out in a minute. TC Duggan showed why he should be you're talking about the Heisman, probably when you say MVP, Anthony. I don't disagree. This kid is just made of nails. And again, I don't know that he's going to have a huge NFL future, to be quite honest with you, but it doesn't matter for this conversation. He'll probably have a better shot than Bennett, but I don't think, again, he could be a guy that'll bounce around the league a little bit as a backup. But he's a great college player, and he had a great year this year. He didn't even start the season starting, and TCU didn't start the year ranked. Great story. We talk about the preseason polls and how it's unfair in a way when some teams start higher. Is it really unfair? When you're a good team, you have a chance. I suppose you have to be in a Power 5 conference mostly for this to happen. You can rise up the polls pretty quickly. TCU did. And Duggan, I would say, as far as the Heisman goes, the problem with the Heisman is I think they put the votes in too early. The voting should not begin before the championship weekend, conference championship weekend, not this weekend. Maybe they should wait till after the season. What would be the harm? Now, the kids who went on and played would have an advantage, obviously, but, part of the Heisman allure is winners tend to get the trophy. Bennett is like Hurts. The team is great just when he need to manage the game. Hurts, though, I don't know. Hurts now, yes, Anthony. Hurts when he was at Oklahoma, man. It felt like, and I guess it's similar to Bennett. It felt like Oklahoma couldn't wait to replace Hurts with Tua. They were looking for a place to do it, and Hurts had to leave to really show what he really could do at Oklahoma, I think, and that's what made him a higher NFL draft pick than he might have been if he'd stayed at Oklahoma. But if you're talking about the way he plays now, absolutely. Then it's just he knows how to win football games. You have to have a certain attitude and a certain approach to the game, not to get yourself totally in a bad headspace when you're getting, listen, they were on the verge of getting blown out of this game a couple of times, and they fought back. Michigan did the same thing. They just could not get over the top because they don't have that championship medal that Georgia has. CA sightings for sure. Again, especially unless you really like defense. As a rule, I would not say these are games that excite me as a rule, but it was just the way that they were played and so many big plays, important games, important calls, officiating calls. Bad mistargeting, by the way, at the end of the mission. Not that it probably would have mattered at the end of the Michigan TCU game. If that's not targeting, I hate the rule anyway. I like the rule, but I don't like the way it's implemented. Right? And I see too many targeting calls that aren't targeting, that one seemed to me to be obvious. What's the rest of your comment here? Took TCU's 9.5, only 1 point in the fourth quarter. Was it in doubt and quickly confirmed? Especially for those who took. 7.5. That game went down considerably. Because I bet Michigan at 7.5 yesterday. And I did put a disclaimer up when I posted my picks to the page yesterday about my change. I did not think I did pick Georgia to win, but I liked Oklahoma. Boy, I am all over the place. Ohio State to be able to keep it close. I thought they'd keep it close. Again, I said they had to get out quick. I said TCU had to get out quick. Both those teams got out quick. It benefited them both, kept Ohio State in the game, but ultimately they could not finish it off. And I do think there was some I just thought it was an interesting part of the story that game, that Ohio State Georgia game ended pretty much at the stroke of midnight last night. It was appropriate. I thought the game, with all the passing going on, I knew the game was going to go long, but so I had to put on a split screen with the ball dropping and whatnot. At least the Big Blue, who already got Rose Bowl tickets, they can get the streak. Listen, you got to give TCU and Sonny Dykes credit, man. Nobody gave them a chance. I said they had a puncher chance. I did not think they'd win the game. I kept waiting for them to fail all year just because of the way they, again, played with their hair on fire. They didn't play from behind. This from ahead. This game was kind of an aberration for them because both these teams are second half teams. Both these teams have come back from deficits in the second half. TCU with some large ones. And even during the regular season, I kept waiting for them to not be able to come back, and they just it didn't happen. And that's a credit to Dykes and the coaching staff and Duggan, who's a leader of that team. And yes, Carlos, I know you're not here. Leadership matters. Jumping on that 9.5 early was the best bet of that too. Both games, the spreads were dropping as the days passed. I should have bet Ohio State. I couldn't get a read on what I wanted to do with Ohio State and Georgia because I really felt Ohio State would give them a game, but I was just so scared about, C.J. Stroud hadn't played well. Some of the better athletes on this team did not put it together and play up to that talent level. You saw it in the Michigan game. I'm not, and you're going to hear this you'll hear this first. I've said it a couple times though. Ryan Day, if not this year, maybe next year, Ryan Day will be the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and Mike Vrabel will be the next head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Could happen this year. This loss, I don't know if this loss is better or worse for Ryan Day than a blowout. The alumni in Columbus are getting a little antsy at their failures in big games. Now, they played a really good game last night. You got to give them credit. A lot of people thought they'd get blown out of the building, but they got too much talent. They got too much talent not to start winning playoff games. And Ryan Day, if not this year, Ryan Day has probably got one more grace period at the most. Could happen this year. He could get out ahead of the posse. I think he'll be the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. TCU needs to fix their defense. TCU has not been a great defensive team all year long, Anthony. I doubt they're going to be able to fix that defense in a week's time. So probably what they want to do is get the offense cranked up, because maybe we just saw the beginning of the scoreboard lining up, because TCU can exploit Georgia's weaknesses, I think, just like C.J. Stroud did. I think Duggan can do that. So you could see a high-scoring game. I didn't see the line come out yet. I'm sure there is one this morning. I just didn't get a chance to look for it. But I think that I wouldn't doubt that this is a double-digit spread, right? CMU might know. I mean, it could be as high as 2 touchdowns. I don't really know. Nothing would shock me as far as that goes. Well, just a couple other notes on college football yesterday. I did bet Alabama, and they played a great game. I really had a feeling when Bryce Young and Henderson didn't opt out that they were probably going to want to finish up with a bang. But as Nick Saban pointed out in the post-game press conference, and he kind of quietly bashed the transfer portal pretty good. He had 10 guys that opted out before this. He gave every one of those 10 guys a chance of playing this game, and they all refused. And he talked openly last night in front of the media about how that's not right. And I've said this for a while now. These kids ought to be compelled to finish their commitment to these teams. Not just Alabama, but all through these bowl games, we've seen this happen, right? And it's not fair to their teammates. It's not fair to a lot of things. And that's why when it comes to, if I'm an NFL executive, I ain't picking any of these guys who opt out of these games for whatever reason, because I'm transferring to a new school. I'm sure the schools are refusing to let them, whoever's paying them to jump through the portal. But I've been saying this for a while, and it's just not a good situation. The combination of the portal and the NIL is really wrecking college football. And there's something you can't blame Nick Saban on, because while I'm sure they've done their share of brought in transfers, paid NIL, they don't even come close to what Georgia does, to what Texas A&M does, to what Miami Hurricanes do, with no positive outcomes. And you're right, Georgia has nowhere near the talent as they did last year, Rick. Agreed. We've said that all year. I thought, again, kudos to them. I thought they would take a step back, but again, a step back in the sense that they would lose a game or two and maybe not reach the playoff. Still not a horrible year. Kirby Smart's a great coach. Again, you saw several times. There was a couple little things with Kirby Smart. Well, one big thing. Again, getting that timeout called before the fake punt, huge. I know he had help, I'm sure. But if you remember, when the kid from Ohio State, the hell's his name? I hate to keep calling him a kid. There he is. Ruggles. Noah Ruggles. When he missed the field goal, the 50-yarder, there was still 2 or 3 seconds left on the clock. And Georgia started to rush the field. Kirby Smart, who's I'm sure excited in that very moment, is interested in one thing: keeping his kids on the field, not getting some kind of sportsmanlike penalty that might cause something crazy to happen. That's a nice piece of coaching as well, by the way, because that's coaching through the whistle. Good job. Kirby Smart, I told you last year, Rick, Kirby's won me over. Kirby's a great coach. I'm going to tell you right now, Georgia's the new Alabama. Part of it is because they've got resources to really compete the way that the landscape is in college football today. They do. Alabama's not lacking for resources either, but I'll bet you there's more. The feeling is that Georgia's got the ability to do a little more than Alabama, or they're willing to do a little more than Alabama. Yeah, I do think the Marvin Harrison was playing a great game, and I think Marvin Harrison is the best receiver in the country. He didn't get the Blitnikoff Award, but I thought he should have. He's missed some time with injuries, but he's a difference maker. Great player. I mean, he's such a different player than his father, because he's big and strong. His father was small. This kid's a 6'4", 6'5", and he really, I mean, he had a great game up until that point, right? 2 touchdowns, and let's see, what did he do here? It's rushing. Where are you? Where are you, Marvin? 5 catches, 106 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Most of that in the first half. He got hurt. It could have been a targeting call on that play, but, definitely a turning point for Ohio State. But these things happen. And C.J. Stroud still played well after that, and some of the kids stepped up. Egbuka played well. Look at Ohio State's got nothing to be ashamed of last night. You saw 13 last night? 13 what? That one's a little out of context for me, Rick. You can explain it, and I'll be glad to address it. Don't leave TCU. I'm not leaving TCU out. Anybody playing in Texas, there's money floating around. And all these schools. I'm not leaving anybody out. The rumors of what's going on with the transfer portal and tied to NIL money is outrageous. Larry Sorensen told me about this kid, and I haven't been able to collaborate yet, but supposedly the Collective in Miami, which is huge, but there's one guy at the University of Miami who, between all the athletes, football, baseball, gymnastics, it could be anything, $86 million, just him. But now you've got collectives at these schools who are pooling their money, and there's all kinds of rumors. There's a rumor that a kid going in at quarterback for Miami next year is going to get $9 million, over $9 million in NIL money. Drake May from North Carolina is rumored to have been offered $5 million by at least two different teams, to hit the portal and come there. Sam Hartman staying in school, transferring Notre Dame, the hottest rumor, because he'll make more money in college than he will go into the pros. So, no, I don't leave out TCU, CA. I think your take on Georgia and the portal NIL money is wrong. I'm not saying the portal. I'm talking about NIL money, but I'll look into it a little more. I'm just looking. The resources are there to do it. That's all I'm saying, Rick. And the portal they don't need anymore in Alabama, doesn't. I don't think they use it. They do use it, but I don't think they use it to the extent a lot of these other teams have to use it. They don't use it to the extent that USC used it this year. And the portal has just gotten ridiculous. Your ex-quarterback, JT Daniels, Rick, is going to his 4th team. His 4th team in 4 years. Something's wrong. Oh, point spread. You saw as high as 15. So what was your comment there? Oh, you saw 13 yesterday. Yeah, I was going to say 2 touchdowns. It still could go that high, or TCU is not going to get a lot of respect here. And quite frankly, 2 touchdowns, I may be all over TCU. We'll see. I tend to change my mind at game time from where I might make my picks on a Wednesday night. So what else is going on here? What else we got going on in the world, Couch? Oh, I want to talk. And we go bring up any comments you have about these 2 playoff games. Again, I think they were fun games. Were there some bad calls by officials? Yes. Do I think any of those bad calls really should be blamed for either one of these teams losing? I do not. Sorry, Michigan, you can't make the mistakes you made in the game and give up 51 points. Put those 2 teams together. Or those 2 things together, and you cannot tell me any one call or any 2 calls beat you yesterday. You beat yourself. One other game I bet the over yesterday in Iowa. I didn't have this game on. I was doing a couple things around the house where we went out to dinner. And, Iowa and Kentucky. It was 31. Kentucky had pretty much everybody opt out. Will Levis wasn't there. Iowa's offensive issues are well documented. But 31 points, I'm thinking easy. And I wasn't watching the game, and I was tracking it on my phone with the score, and it was 21-0, middle of the second quarter. And I'm thinking, that's awesome. All he needs is 10 and a half more. I need 11 more points. I'm going to win. Kentucky's got to put up one touchdown. Iowa's obviously moving the football. Well, what I didn't know was Iowa scored on 2 pick sixes, and you looked at the stats from this game. These guys, I did watch the middle of third quarter on. These two teams set offensive football back 100 years. Oh my God, it was awful. Awful, awful, awful. And a day full of good football. Even the Alabama-Kansas State game was a good game. Kansas State got off to a quick start and scared Alabama a bit. I know the final score was a runaway. But this was the only stinker of the day, I think, was Iowa and Kentucky. It's a shame they had to get stuck in the middle of these other games. What do you got, CA? Professional football, unfortunately, has been starting in Pop Warner for years, and we're seeing the results. Yeah, I mean, again, I've had this argument with one of my regular viewers on the college football huddle. You've probably been there for it. That, it was a couple of weeks ago, that these kids should be able to do whatever they want and have freedom of movement. And they're not employees. They make a commitment. They get a scholarship. And I understand it should go both ways, that you shouldn't maybe be able to yank a scholarship out from under a kid either. But they make a commitment, and it means nothing. And again, the coaches don't set any good example. So we are seeing the results. Bryce Young did play well yesterday. And again, I want to make sure we separate these two things, Anthony. And I know you're not putting them together. Bryce Young, great college football quarterback. C.J. Stroud, great college football quarterback. Max Duggan, great college football quarterback. Stetson Bennett, great. I'll go on and on. I don't think any of these guys are going to be that good on the next level. C.J. Stroud played well yesterday, but I see him make bad decisions. And again, we talk about Ohio State not having a great track record for NFL quarterbacks, nor do I think that's the fault of a coach. It's not their job, to get these kids ready to play in the NFL. That's not what they're paid for. But I think you're right. I think Bryce Young might have trouble on the next level. But I think everybody talked about this great quarterback class coming out. About the only guy that I'd want to put my money on is Will Levis. I love Will Levis, and I think he'll be the best guy that you'll see come out of this class in the draft this year. I'm not getting into this conversation with you here. Yeah, I know that. I just commented on that. They're the two biggest spenders, not just in football, but in all sports. And look, it's still, you put the portal in the NL money. I'm not going to talk about this NIL forever today. Michigan left too much in the tank. I was wrong, and that depth did not matter. TCU played better. Agreed. Yesterday, TCU played better. Michigan made mistakes. Michigan had a heart. Michigan fought valiantly to get back in this game, but unfortunately, every single time they pulled in, they thought to yourself, hey, there was a couple of times they got within 3, and I'm thinking, I can still cover this game at 7.5. But and then the next play, boom, TCU would score again. I don't know. And I had to get off. I think it was when I was getting off, but maybe it was in the middle of it. I didn't get a chance to comment a lot when I was on Mac and Jack. The question came up: what's a better story? What's a better story? And I'll give it to you guys that are in the room with me right now. All of you. Drew, you too. I know you're not a big college football fan, but I think you might be able to at least, I think you can comment on this. What's a better story for college football? Georgia winning back-to-back championships, which doesn't happen. It's only happened a handful of times throughout in the last 100 years of college football. Or TCU coming from being unranked with a starting quarterback who debatably maybe should have won the Heisman, depending on when the votes, if you change when the votes were allowed to be cast. With a coach who's been around the block a bunch of times, never had this type of shot. Would it be better to see them win, TCU, again, decided underdog, win this championship, or Georgia win back-to-back? To me, there's a couple different schools of thought here. Right? Yes, in a normal sense, I would say a better story would be Georgia winning back-to-back, just because it happens so rarely. But in the landscape of college football, the way it stands today, with all the realignment, with all the, the power conferences getting more powerful, I think it would be good to see the SEC get knocked down a notch. And I would have some fun on my college football show, I can tell you that. Mark Brown has been grooming an excellent opportunity for an NFL quarterback. Who? Who's Mark Brown? Probably one of the coaches I'm not familiar with here. So, Mac Brown. Mac Brown. Now I get it. Mac Brown. Yeah, listen, Drake May right now is the best quarterback in college football, without a doubt. He's probably the kid with, I think, of all the kids playing in college today, might have the highest ceiling when it comes to the NFL. Now, he's only going to be, I think, a true sophomore next year. So he's got a couple of years. And as I said, we don't even know if he'll finish his career at North Carolina because people have been throwing money at him in the portal trying to get him to move. Big money. Anthony might change his pick to TCU, might win it all in a Cinderella story. They might. So the question again, Anthony, and I'll ask the rest of you guys again. I'll put this question out there one more time. And again, also, guys, be thinking about what your stories of the year, sports stories of the year are, because I'm going to want to get into those here in a little bit. We're going to go to the NFL in just a bit, but we'll continue this. I want to talk just a little bit about what would be a better story and what would be better, I should say. What would be better for college football? Public relations wise, I guess. Back-to-back championships by Georgia, which doesn't happen that often, or TCU, the Cinderella story, as Anthony has alluded to here. So I'd love to get all of your guys' comments on this. I'm torn right now. I'm torn between wanting to see the back-to-back champions, but not wanting to root for the SEC and listen to the SEC elitists. Again, it'd be a great accomplishment. I don't want to think that way. I hate thinking that way. So part of me wants TCU to win. Part of me wants Georgia to win, because I also would like to see Stetson Bennett get that crowning achievement, because that's going to be the end of his football career, guys. You can't. The NFL's tried minor league football. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. They tried it overseas. You've got the USFL. It stinks. It's horrible football. Nobody goes to watch it. They don't watch on TV. There's no money to sustain it. The NFL is never going to do it because they've got the NCAA to be their minor league system. You're never going to see a minor league in football, ever. Never. People knew Georgia was going back to the finals. I don't know if everybody knew that. You're good. You're right. Nobody saw Georgia. As I said, Anthony, they were unranked to start the season. And again, we'd have to look. I'm sure there's been teams that have won a national championship being unranked in the preseason. Shows you what preseason polls are worth, right? But I don't know that everybody thought Georgia was going back to the finals other than Georgia fans, because I said, and I'll only count myself here, they lost so much talent. 15 guys in the NFL draft, don't forget. Most of them in the first few rounds. That it was going to be hard. And again, I thought they'd step back. I didn't think they'd be horrible. I thought they'd lose a game or two and not make the playoff. I thought Alabama would probably step back up, or you might get a surprise like Mississippi, or I guess that was probably the only one. Actually, I thought Kentucky might shock the world in the preseason, but they fell apart at the end. But you're right. I mean, even if people weren't picking Georgia to get to the final, they're the defending champion. They play in a what's perceived as a much higher echelon conference, which may or may not be accurate. It's deeper for sure. There's no reason the Big 12 can't compete. So I'll take that as you saying TCU would be a bit bigger, a better story. Bigger or better. TCU giving hope to the conference versus SEC, proving once again that they can have more players go to the NFL. I don't think, again, you guys got to stop. I think too many, not just you. When I say you guys, I mean everybody in the world. I can tell you, unless I'm talking about the draft, I don't really talk about college. I will talk about guys whether they have the chance to move on to the next level, but it has zero meaning to me when I'm talking about college football, because there are a lot of great college football players, and that's all that matters. It's not these teams' jobs. Now, I think Carlos, your point probably would be that you're going to get better talent by being able to attract them. But Max Duggan is not going to be a high draft pick in the NFL draft. No way. So, again, I think TCU winning would give hope to other conferences. And, again, I think as you get a 12-team playoff, you're going to see guys go to different schools and not want to be a third stringer on Alabama or Georgia because I'm going to get a chance to go to the playoff every single year. Because now you can go to a lot of teams across the country and have a chance to get in that playoff. I think it levels the playing field. And I don't think players having a chance to go to the NFL really has much to do with it. It's not like TCU hasn't produced some great NFL players, by the way. One of the best running backs in the history of the NFL went to TCU, LaDainian Tomlinson, and proved to win another championship. I don't. What do you got, Drew? More focus on Division 2 and 3. Talented players who never get exposure, way less money involved to jade it. Good point. And there's some good football being played there. I mean, look at some of the kids every year, Drew. It's an awesome point. Okay, so we'll talk about. Now I'll circle back, and maybe I'm being hypocritical. There's a lot of kids getting drafted in Division 2 and Division 3 football in the NFL draft now. These guys have expanded their searches, the scouting to Division 2 and Division 3. Some of them go high. North Dakota, South Dakota State, or South Dakota State's the one that's really good. They've had several really good players. The kid for the wide receiver for Green Bay this year, who's really come on like gangbusters the second half of the season and helped Green Bay get into the playoff picture. There's some really good football being played at Division 2 and Division 3 level. Oh, and by the way, they've had playoffs for a long time in those divisions. Y'all are saying, is y'all, everybody or me, that without saying the NCAA is capable of manipulating a championship for well, no, I never believe that. The Katrina Bowl, what is it? See, I don't buy that. So you're telling me that you say everything's fixed, CA. You'll never get me to agree to that stuff. There's too much money involved. There's too many people involved. So no, do I think games are, and when you say manipulated, I also know you're talking about fixing games to come out to a certain outcome. I don't think that happens on any level. I really don't. If I thought it did, I'd watch professional wrestling. What would be the point? And I would say anybody who thinks that, and with all due respect, I don't know why you're watching games. I'd never bet a game. I can tell you that. I would never put a nickel of my money on a game if I thought the games were fixed. If people go out and bet professional wrestling, if they do, they're stupid. Yeah, I can't buy into that. Now, do I think they don't root for certain matchups? Absolutely. Do I think they determine a champion? No. Is it possible when you get your 4 teams? Listen, those guys, and again, this will become less of an issue when there's 12 teams. Because all you can really do is manipulate the seedings to try to get the best matchups, which could have happened this time. And I think they didn't really want to see a Michigan Ohio State rematch in the semis. So I don't ever buy into, games being manipulated or whatever other word we want to use. Random question. Do I judge a player from their season and not from their pro day? I think you got to judge I think you have to judge a player by a lot of things, not just their pro day. They can have a bad day. I mean, take a look at Tom Brady's pro day and watch him running the 40 and, with a time by a sundial. You got to take in consideration the kid's makeup. Why Duggan might have a shot to at least get a chance in the NFL is his makeup. Tom Brady made it in the NFL because he was knocked down as, nobody thought he could make it. Look what Brock Purdy's doing this year. So I think you can go by their pro day. No, but I will tell you something. There are red flags for me though on guys, Anthony. If I was a pro general manager, professional general manager, player development guy, whatever, I don't think I'd be picking guys who are opting out of bowl games, who let their teammates down at their most important time of their season, whether they're playing in the freaking Sarsaparilla Bowl or the national championship semifinal. I'm not picking any of those guys. I want guys who want to play football, who want to go out there and fight with their teammates like they have all year long. Don't let some agent talk them into protecting their interests. Guys who try not to get hurt, get hurt. So I question the makeup of those guys who decide they want to skip out on their teammates at the most important time of their season. Yeah. You know what? They do have too much info. I agree. And what they don't measure is what's in here. They don't measure what's in a guy's heart and the intangibles, because there's no way to measure them except watching the eye test. Watch the kid play games. Stetson Bennett will never get a chance in the NFL. All he does is win. Tim Tebow, now he wasn't good enough to play. He got a couple chances, right? But people didn't think he could make it. But all he did in college was win. And it doesn't mean you're no good as a quarterback if you don't make it in the NFL. There are tons of great college quarterbacks whose accomplishments should not be diminished because they didn't make it in the NFL. They fixed it with one dead owner because he was going to move the team out of New Orleans. I don't agree with that even a little bit. Would it have been a PR nightmare? Yes. Again, do I think they fixed that Super Bowl or fixed? You're telling me they fixed the season, right? The whole season. Great story. And if that's the case, then it diminishes the impact of the great story that the New Orleans Saints were that year, because you're telling me it was all a fairy tale. You and I are usually on closer to the same page, CA, than this. You'll never get me to agree to this. Have there been individual people who have attempted to throw games, fix games? Sure. We've seen the stories. Do I think any league, college or professional, is looking to fix games to get the matchups that they want or to keep teams in a city? No, I do not. And I never will. Show me some proof. You have no proof other than the fact that they won the Super Bowl in a year where they may have been moving. And it would have been a PR nightmare. I do not disagree with that at all. That them moving the team would have been a nightmare for the NFL after Hurricane Katrina, for sure. Now, again, I'll say you're entitled to that opinion, but I have a hard time buying into that. I just do. All right, we can continue these conversations. Oh, wait a minute. Anthony's got something else here before we move on here. Iron Force, sounds like you're saying the Ravens won a Super Bowl just because it was Rat Lewis's last season from retiring. Well, if they did that, I'd stop watching NFL altogether. Because as always, here comes some of the bots into the room. So if you guys need to find the best dating site online, get the address here before I block this. That would be crazy talking. So I don't know. So yeah, you can comment whether you're saying that, all of the Super Bowl matchups are fixed. Since we're moving into the NFL, it's just a good segue. Or just certain ones. Don't get me going on Ray Lewis, because are you a Ravens fan, Anthony? Can't tell. I think that's a raven on your hat. My next comments may not be that well received. Not a big Ray Lewis fan, for obvious reasons. Because you get less of a suspension for, theoretically, being involved in a double homicide than you do for letting the air out of football. But that's just me. I probably shouldn't have said it today. But it's the way I feel. Anybody need this dating site? I'll leave it up here if you need it. Block. Bye-bye. Yeah, I knew who you meant here. Oh, that's good. I don't know why. Look, I ask you this all the time. I forget. I get short-term memory issues. I could have swore as I'm looking at your profile picture that there might have been a raven on there. And I'm a fan of your team. I want your team to make the playoffs. Love the Redskins. The team formerly known as the Redskins. Let's jump into the NFL. Where are we today with the state? Where are we with the playoff picture today? The AFC, right now you got the Bills holding on that number one seed. I really, really hope they win today. And Denver finds a way to beat Kansas City. And then you might be able to figure out why I think that. Because we have to beat Miami today and Buffalo next week to make the playoffs. Let me get my NFL stuff up here. There we go. Hang on. We got a comment from Alan, who's joined us here late. Oh, here we go. No Jalen Hurts today if you have him for fantasy. We knew that. He's likely going to be available for the Giants game. My guess is he doesn't play at all. Maybe one or two series. You're right. My guess is he may not play at all, though, if they've wrapped up the home field. Which, again, I don't know, would be a great thing for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Even if he plays two series, I don't think that's a great thing for the Eagles. Assuming they get the bye, that would mean Jalen Hurts would have sat around for about, I don't know, a month without playing in a game? That can't be good for the Eagles when they finally get to play a game. Carlos, you're so far behind the curve here. Some players in lower level colleges and universities do get opportunities, but it's very few. There's more and more every year, though. I can tell you right now. You see wide receivers going in the first round. You see the Patriots taking Kyle Duggar a few years ago out of I don't even think it was Division III. It might have been Division III. I think it was Division III. In the second round. And he's one of the most indispensable players on the team. There's a lot of good players being found there. And again, when they don't get drafted, they find them in the undrafted free agents. Cardinals turn to their fourth-string quarterback. Who is that? You, Drew, by the way? I think I may have picked the Cardinals. I'll be changing that when we go through the picks today, by the way. Has anybody been a bigger disappointment than the Cardinals this year, by the way? I mean, yes, the Rams, as big a disappointment. But nobody's getting fired. McVay could walk away. But the TV jobs that he had his eye on last year pretty much have dried up. He's not going to have that lucrative offer, I don't think, for that. But the Cardinals got to be one of the biggest disappointments. They'll be cleaning house there. Clem, the GM's already stepped away for health-related reasons. He's probably going to be asked to spend more time with his family anyway. So is Kingsbury. They may just blow it all up. You may see Kyler Murray get moved. This experiment did not work. Victor Cruz is a good example of a guy in the lower levels. There's a lot of guys. How about Phil Simms went to Morehead State? Terry Bradshaw. At the time, these teams weren't playing Division I football. Complexities are too difficult to explain now. It's probably outcomes manipulation, refs are trading. God, I hate that. Oh, God, CA. I thought I finally found... Never mind. Why would you watch the games if you felt they were fixed? I mean, are you a wrestling fan? Why would anybody watch games they thought were fixed? Why would the NFL be paying $1 billion a year so they can fix games? For money? For TV? Because they lose money on these freaking contracts all the time. And they buy the rights to Super Bowl so they can promote their primetime schedules. Yes, Drew, it might as well be me or you. Sorry, might as well be you, not me, because I don't want to get banged up like that. And you shouldn't either. You'll be needing, you'll be needing more replacement parts. I had a friend of mine years ago. I'll tell you the story. It's kind of related. We were watching the Tommy Hearns Marvin Hagler match. If you remember years ago, it was a classic. It only went like 3 rounds, but it was just a slugfest for 2.5, 3 rounds, whatever it went. 2 great fighters. And we were watching this out at a bar. And he turns to me and he says, for $1 million, I could get in there and go run around. And I told him, you'd be dead. You wouldn't collect any money because you'd be dead. You would get hit once and you'd be on your way to the hospital with a serious brain trauma. Anyway, that's what would happen to any one of us if we tried to play quarterback in the NFL today, I'm sure. Oh, we got that already. Your NFL picks are very bad this year. Yes, they are, Carlos. You're ready for next season? So happy New Year. Carlos starting a new season. Unfortunately, I can't restart the clock for you until September. Jerry Rice, Mississippi Valley State, another great example. Good job, Alan. Sony Michel. Where was Sony this last time? Was he with San Diego? Where was he? He'd been all over the place. He started with LA. He was with Miami. Gosh, who released him this time? I've stopped following him. Guy had some talent. I don't know. Injuries derailed him mostly. And he couldn't hold on to the football well enough. That's why he wasn't a Patriot. Well, that's part of, the game. Next year, I will do my best to try to set it up with just picking winners because that's a lot easier. Anthony Price, now I agree with him on the refs that are making bad. No, can't they just be incompetent? That's not even a possibility, right? I see. I can't buy into that. I just won't. I won't say there are not guys that are incompetent and not good at their job, just like there are in every aspect of life. Just like players are incompetent, just like coaches are incompetent. I had to listen to this crap for 20 years with the Patriots. There's zero reason. Again, people would say, "Oh, they fix the games, the refs." Pick the funny memes with the pictures of the refs, the New England Patriot team picture. Those are all funny because funny's funny. I laugh. But it's ridiculous. The NFL did not want the New England Patriots to win. They did everything they could to keep them from winning. They had witch hunts that were beyond ridiculous. So again, do I think any of these games are fixed? I do not. I think mistakes get made. And maybe there's a rogue ref out there. We know Tim Donahoe was the referee's name, the NBA referee. And if you haven't watched that, it's on Netflix. There's I don't know what they call it now, beyond whatever, the rest of the story, something. It's a really good documentary about Tim Donahoe and how that whole thing came down. So could you have a rogue guy like that? Sure. But that's not the league fixing games. Well, that's not the NFL, and that's not professional sports either. Well, I guess it is now. I guess the amateur illusion is probably gone. But again, I'm not counting that. That's an international organization. And again, those have been corrupt for decades. Look at the Olympic committees. Not the same. To me, not the same. What was your claim to accurately being what? What was your claim to accurately on being right on this show? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're asking me. What was my claim to accurately on being right on this show? Help me out, Rick. San Diego released Michelle. Goodbye, Sony. Career might be over. I somehow jumped into a tie for second. Don't ask how. You made a good run here, Alan. We'll get into that in a minute. Referees have a strong union. I am confused. How is that relevant? Referees have a strong union. Players have a strong union. Major League Baseball umpires have strong unions. You're telling me that the union's telling them to fix games? I'm not sure what you're saying. Oh, because incompetent refs can stick around. If that's your point, Carlos, you're absolutely right. The whole problem with unions in general is incompetent people have their positions protected. Unions were a necessary evil in this country 100 years ago. Anyway, good morning, Alan. By the way, we didn't say good morning and Happy New Year to you, did we? Dak apparently hyperextended his knee. He also hyperextended his brain sometime in his career at Mississippi State, I'm pretty sure. It'd be interesting, though. Listen, Dak, I take some shots at Dak. He's a talented quarterback. His game management skills are terrible. Now, if you said the game's faster for the refs, and yes, maybe adding more camera. Yeah, well, again, the game is faster. They do have replay, which has kind of ruined the game in my mind in a lot of instances. I mean, it's bastardized and not used the way it should be used. But, I mean, definitely these guys, and I think you do see younger refs, I think, than you saw before, Anthony. You go back to my day, maybe it's because I was younger and guys looked older. But there could be a trend towards getting younger. And they're in shape. Look at first Ed Hockley and now his son. I don't remember his first name, but he's the bicep junior. Be careful, Keith. You might get more guys on your case besides Basement Bob. What did I steal now? Yes, I need to have more lawsuits threatened against me for this podcast that reaches thousands. Jarrett Stidham is the new future of the Raiders. Well, listen, here's the thing. That whole situation was handled badly, and I don't know if it's Josh McDaniel or it's Mark Davis. I mean, Mark Davis should probably spend more time with his hairstylist, and it's hard for me to make hair jokes, obviously. But I don't know if this was his doing or not. Listen, I don't have a problem with the Raiders moving on from Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a classic. I put up numbers, but don't win championships. He'll never win championships. I told Carlos this last year when he was touting Derek Carr. And I said, when they get to the playoffs, you will see a moment where Derek Carr remembers he's Derek Carr, and it happened against the Bengals. Didn't even throw the ball to the end zone on the fourth down where he had to. Again, terrible game management. There are guys with lots of talent who put up numbers. Dak might fall into this category, but they don't win because they can't manage the game. They don't have that intangible something. So, and Jaron Stidham, by the way, I wish had gotten a little bit of a chance with the Patriots. So let's see him play. He has never started a game. When the Patriots had him, there was talk that he found his way into the doghouse more often than not. I'd like to see the kid get a chance to see what he can do, but is he the future of anybody? No, he's probably a good backup quarterback. Clipboard carrier. I understand the love of game sports. That love they count on. That love. So I'm a sheep. I'm just a sheeple being herded over here and being herded over there by the powers that be in sports. Oh, come on, CA. We're better than that. Make sure you donate to your local referees fund so these guys can afford LASIK surgery. Listen, let the league do that. They make plenty of money. Rick Sherlock, I was just being lazy, crazy, and mad. We all get some good picks and some bad picks. I was just going on all those calls that I was right on. You know, you're very good. I don't know what that even... I'm not even sure where that's related, but Carlos, you're very good at talking about the calls you get right, but we don't really list them out, and you don't talk a lot about the ones you get wrong. I come back here week after week, and when I'm wrong, I tell you I was wrong, right? I was wrong on Georgia this year. You'll never have to look up the tapes. You're never gonna see me pull a Mike Francesa. For those of you who are not in the New York area, spent 3 decades on WFAN, really the preeminent sports, or was the preeminent sports station in the country, the one who built sports radio, basically. But this guy, anytime he was ever wrong, and he's wrong a lot, the tapes would get lost. My tapes don't get lost. I come here and tell you I was wrong. Because I have very strong opinions. And then when I'm wrong, I admit, I'm wrong. You bench Carr so you don't have to pay. No, he gets paid. No, there is that. Because there is, and that's a very good point to point out, Anthony, that he's got this clause in his contract that right now they could leave. Right now they could let him go with very little effect to their dead cap space next year. Very little, nominal. But if he gets hurt, there are different guarantees that come into play in his contract. So that's a very good call, Anthony. That's right. No hair. Love how everyone keeps saying Tua has officially incurred only his second concussion. You know what I find interesting about this topic, Drew? And congratulations, by the way, Drew, on your new grandbaby. What I find very interesting about this is the second time that the NFL and the officials, game officials on site, have said that he showed no signs of a concussion and was allowed to go back into a game or play the next game. I'm sorry, he went back into a game last week against the Packers, the second time. Now, again, there's something wrong with the protocol. If twice the same guy in a year, they say showed no signs, they put him back in the game, and man, he sure looked like he had a concussion, at least the first time. I didn't see him come back in against the Packers, but Jack Hirsch, who was at the game, said it seemed obvious from his play that he had incurred a concussion. Replay is a tool for possession changes, for probability outcomes, just like selective non-replay. CA, you're going to beat this drum until my head explodes. I remember Keith Art about yes. I say guys with intangibles can lead teams to Super Bowls. Trent Dilfer, Brad Johnson, and they also have to have superior teams around them. By the way, I don't disagree with that. You know, mediocre quarterbacks don't take really bad teams to the Super Bowl. But guys with big stats don't necessarily win Super Bowls. Dan Marino. I'm not saying Dan Marino wasn't a very good quarterback. Is he the greatest quarterback of all time? What are you measuring quarterbacks by? Just the numbers they put up? Or wins? Most of us want our quarterbacks to win Super Bowls. Keep in mind, guys, sports didn't start in 2000. I think I've said that about 1 million times. Yeah. 40 years it took for them to get relevant. I didn't root for them those whole 40 years because I was a baby for part of them. You want to read a great book that really is not written as a Homerish, in a Homerish way, if that makes sense. I know it's not a real phrase. Read Ian O'Connor's Dynasty, which covers the Patriots from pre-Robert Kraft and how Robert Kraft acquired the Patriots. And I already knew this story, but the way he went about acquiring ownership of this team is brilliant business management in itself. Nothing to do with sports, but it's a great story in itself. It's all about acquiring, all of the real estate around the stadium, the parking lots, etc., which were dumps, by the way, back in the day. But then leveraging that into getting the stadium, getting a lease from the team. I'm really giving you the abridged version here. Like a 25-year lease where the Patriots couldn't break it, couldn't move. The Patriots would have moved out of town if it wasn't for Robert Kraft. First of all, his ownership of the stadium and the lease that he signed the Patriots to was unbreakable, and they couldn't afford to move. That kept them there, number one, until he was in a position where he could actually buy the team. It's a great story, and then the rest of it is, it's an unbiased look at the Patriots, warts and all, through this. I'm only up to 2012, I think. And again, they aren't shedding a great light in just a lot of this book. It's a very unbiased book. I ever said I don't make bad calls? Well, when? Except for now. I very publicly admit my failings as soon as they happen, basically. I'll be glad to revisit my picks for the NFL. Some are good, some are bad. NFL will change rules next season because of Tua. Not just because of Tua, but in general. I mean, the Anthony, what's the word I'm looking for? Just the mindset of the league now is player protection, player health. And it's probably going to get taken too far. And guys like Tua, some guys who are predisposed to get more concussions than other guys may not play as long. And it'll be easier for them to walk away than guys years ago especially in the 50s and 60s. But even guys who played in the 80s, like Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman talks openly about, he was diagnosed, I don't know the number, with 8 concussions, let's say. Maybe it was less. But he feels like he probably had dozens more, if not more than that, that were never diagnosed. Those guys would stick around. Guys are going to make enough money now where if they look and think they're putting their future at risk, which there are studies that say they are, they'll walk away. They've got their money. Now, they don't have the thing that they love, that's for sure. Jaguars have no plans to rest players today. Good for them, by the way, because guess how you get prepared to play a game? You play the game you play this week, and you hone in your offense, and you hone in your defense, and you get better during game conditions. I never saw anybody improve their play by sitting out and not playing. So the Titans' decision Thursday night not to play anybody was foolish, in my mind. The game's meaningless, but still, there's not something to getting some momentum going into this game against the Jaguars. I'm rooting for the Jaguars. For some reason, my printer keeps coming on. I don't know why. It's okay to add Eli. Yes, I'll add Eli to the list of non-elite quarterbacks. Eli was not an elite quarterback. I would put him on the list. I'll alienate the Giant fans. One of the best descriptions I heard of Eli Manning was he was Jay Cutler with 2 fluke Super Bowl wins. Might be a little harsh, but not that far from the truth. Good conversation today. Kurt Warner, I don't know. Kurt Warner's a different story. I do think Kurt Warner was a bit overrated. He gets to the Hall of Fame on the back of 1 Super Bowl win. Now he did get there with 2 other times. Didn't win. His numbers were good, but he played with some great athletes, man. Literally, they took a grocery store packer, what do they call that guy? Grocery packer, and put him in the lineup. And they were going to win with Trent Green probably. So he wasn't a great quarterback either. But he's in the Hall of Fame, so it's hard for me to say, he doesn't fall into the Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer category. Jack is probably still looking. Yes, I think when Jack's missing from the show, it's because he's in concussion protocol in a tent off to the side. Fighting like hell for my silver or bronze medal in your pick'em. Out of 6 remaining players, I don't think I'm alive. Oh, for the silver or bronze, I would probably be alive as well. We're going to go into that here in just a second. I want to get through you guys got me sidetracked. I was going to go through the playoff. Troy Aikman has been through a lot, and at least to now it appears, but we never know, right? We never know what's going on with a guy other than what we see him on TV, and he looks okay and he sounds okay. But we've seen a lot of tragic stories in the NFL, and I hope Bag Boy Bagger, is that the official thing? All right. Let me look at these standings real quick. Right now, as we stand today, we got the Bills, who would have the bye. The Chiefs will win the division. The Bengals are going to win the division. All 3 of these teams are winning their division. There's no doubt about that. Well, yeah, there's no doubt about that in my mind. You got the Ravens right now with the first wild card, the Chargers with the second, and if the and you had by the way, you have the Jaguars obviously and the Titans in the South. One of them will win the division, the other will go home. Right now, the Dolphins have the 7th and last wild card. They're playing bad football. 2 is out. The Patriots, who shot themselves in the foot, it's been just my heart has been ripped out the last 2 weeks. Horrendous. I talk about game management. This is the worst team, the worst coaching job Bill Belichick has ever done in New England for sure, and maybe anywhere. from the start, the way he's handled the coaching staff, throwing the playbook away, to trying to start a quarterback controversy that didn't need to be started. And the Patriots still find themselves controlling their own destiny. They need to win out and they're in. That's it. They need to beat the Dolphins and they need to beat the Bills. Is that easy? This week's game, I think they should win. They're playing at home against a reeling Dolphin team. They do have some injury issues, but whatever. Mac Jones is playing much better football. Much better football. You can rip them all you want. Mac Jones has been very, very good second half of this season. The rest of the team has let him down. If Buffalo beats Cincinnati today and Denver were to find a way to beat Kansas City, which I don't expect either thing to happen, the Patriots would have a much easier time next week in Buffalo, theoretically. Who else is still alive? The Jets theoretically are still alive. The Steelers theoretically are still alive. We know the Titans are alive. And by the way, the only way we get a team with a winning record in that South is if the Jaguars win today and win next week. Otherwise, we're getting an 8-9 winner. Parity. It's a wonderful thing. And somehow the Raiders are still alive. Not going to happen. Probably the Dolphins back their way into this playoff spot. Maybe the Patriots can do it. I'm not going through all the scenarios. In the NFC East, and I do want to get to our picks so we can talk a little bit about the stories of the year. Guys, get those ready for me. I know you got some. The Eagles, I think, will finish with the best record. The Vikings, Rick, I'm sorry. This team, I just can't get excited about this team being 12-3. I saw them lose 40-3 to the Cowboys, who I am not that enamored with, on the road. At home, at home. I'd be worried about the Kirk Cousins. Again, there's another guy. Perfect example of numbers. No wins in the playoffs. Well, not enough wins in the playoffs. 49ers, a very intriguing story, man. They're playing well. There's a team I'll tell you that I said I had no hope for. That they were not that good a football team. That they were going nowhere with Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, they didn't go anywhere with Jimmy Garoppolo, but Brock Purdy somehow, Mr. Irrelevant, is about to lead his team into the playoffs and maybe make a run. Deebo Samuel's health will be very important to this team. The Cowboys have the 5 seed right now. They do have 12 wins. They can change their seed. Listen, again, until Dak Prescott shows me that he has some kind of time management, game management skills in his head, this team's not winning any Super Bowls. Somebody's got to win the South here, too, unfortunately. Maybe we should just eliminate the South divisions in the NFC or in football in general, in the NFL. Because the Buccaneers are going to win this, and they might win it at 8-9. They're not. This game today with the Panthers is huge. If this game was in Carolina, I would like Carolina today. The Giants are probably getting in with the 6th or the 7th seed. Right now, Washington's in. Seahawks are still alive. The Lions are still alive. Lions have shot themselves in the foot recently, though. They could have locked this up already. The Packers put themselves back in the hunt here these last few weeks with three wins in a row. Carolina's alive. Saints are alive, but they got to win that putrid NFC South. So big games today. Every week it becomes clearer. Bills play. Yeah, I'm sorry. The Bills play on Monday. Resurrection. Oh my God. I don't know what. Yeah, and I like Ron Rivera, and I know Taylor Heineke didn't play all that well, but Carson Wentz is one of the reasons that this team was off to such a bad start and put themselves in a hole to start the season. Another guy, when you look at his numbers, you go, hey, that's pretty good. It was 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, I think, last year. Team couldn't wait to get rid of him. Bad decision by Ron Rivera here. Maybe he should have played Sam Howell. What do we got here? Yes, some are millionaires before they play a down in college. However, production obligations not met shall increase the lack of guaranteed money. Oh, that's possible. I do think that will happen. And again, to Nick Saban's point yesterday, real quickly, I'll go backwards here. You know, those 10 guys opting out don't show any need to fulfill their obligation to their teammates or their team. What about if I'm paying you a bunch of money and you don't play in the game? Bills play Monday. It's fine. Whatever. I'm not sure why we're calling that out, but that's okay. Because I'm not rooting for him today. Today, tomorrow, it's all the same to me. The days run together when you're old, Alan. You'll find out. Packers beat the Vikings today, and the 49ers jumped them for the second seed. It's just too many things to... I agree with this comment. And I liked Brock Purdy at Iowa State. I never once... So, again, some of my comments earlier about some of the guys in college. Some of the guys in college that probably won't make it. I could be totally wrong. I would not have thought Brock Purdy, if you force him into play, especially now, this part of his career, would be able to lead the 49ers the way that he has. Great job. And so, by the way, this could be an example of winning with a quarterback who's not an elite quarterback. This team is certainly capable, and I would not have said this 6 weeks ago, is capable of winning a Super Bowl. I would not have said this 6 weeks ago because I didn't think Jimmy G was the guy to lead them to a Super Bowl. Yeah, Debo's out again. I think their goal now, Drew, is going to be to get him healthy for the playoffs, and hope for the best because they really need him. And then, you know, obviously McCaffrey's got to stay healthy as well. The majority, oh my God. I do know how much the insurance industry of sports is involved. Obviously, anybody who's got something to lose is insured in some way or another. I don't know why we're beating this dead horse, though, CA, because I'm trying to move on to some other things. And maybe that's all that matters. Maybe you're involved in this conspiracy. You've done fairly well in the pick'ems. maybe you've got inside knowledge I should start listening to. Mr. Cyclone getting it done for the Niners. He's done a great job. Bucks win today and they clinch the division. You know what? I was going to share this with you guys. I don't know if you guys like it when I share this or not, but let me go here. Take this away. Let me share. And after we do this, guys, we're not going to have much time, but we're going to talk a little bit about the stories of the year, which I didn't leave us a lot of time. We had a good conversation today, so I'm okay with that. Let me share the screen here, and we will take a quick look. What am I showing? All right. Hopefully you guys can see that a little bit. I can't do anything else with it. Anyway, here's our leaders. I'll just give you a quick rundown of last week. The Headless Horseman, who I guess I don't know who that is, had 11. Boomer Sooner, steady the last few weeks. 10 for Allen. Good job. S. Craw, we don't even know who he is, but he's got 10. Drew comes in with 9. Keith comes in with 9. ESPN, Waldo, 7. CA with 6. Knocking himself down a little bit. Here's where we stand for year to date with just a few weeks left. Probably all wrapped up here by S. Craw, which, again, we don't even know who he is. He's the mystery man of TGI Sports Talk. Allen, as he mentioned earlier, has done a great job moving himself into a tie with CA at second, for second. Probably, again, as high as we're going to get, it's probably a fight for second and third, as Drew alluded to. Drew is right there behind both Allen and CA with 116. That's a great job in this type of setup. And TGI Sports Talk trails Drew by 3. Decent week last week, but I've had a couple of stinkers. I had a 4 that got dropped. I had 4 wins a couple of weeks ago. And then the Headless Horseman is behind me. And I always like to point out the Mad New Yorker with a maddening 83 and 121 record for the year. Sorry to point that out. Let me go through the picks. You'll see my picks here, just so there's no shenanigans. You'll see I've already lost on Tennessee. Oh, I did take the Falcons, thank God. Falcons -3 over the Cardinals. As Drew mentioned, they're on their fourth-string quarterback. I think his name is Y.E. Tittle. Jim Hart, somebody of that era, is probably going to suit up for the Cardinals today. The Falcons and Desmond Ridder will probably win at home, and hopefully by the 3.5. The Lions trying to right the ship. They really kind of, again, they got off to a bad start. They really played well in the middle of the season. They've kind of gotten their own way here the last few weeks. But the Bears are kind of playing out the string with just 3 wins. I think the Lions win this game at least by a touchdown. You'll see here, I did take the Broncos plus the 13.5. I'd like them to win the game. This is probably a heart bet instead of a head bet. But let's hope they can keep the game close and maybe something crazy can happen at the end. By the way, you guys can comment on this if you like. The Denver players are already pissed off at their interim coach because they had one practice and pads day left. There's only so many you can use because the union has got to protect their players. Another reason they get hurt all the time is the fact that they don't hit in practice, but they had to wear pads. They had one more day. Teams don't use it. He decided to use it on Thursday. The players are all ticked off at the interim coach, and what a bunch of nonsense. These guys are such prima donnas and babies, and they don't understand the fact that they're getting hurt right and left is because they don't hit enough in practice. Unbelievable. The Giants over the Colts. I'm a little surprised this is only 3.5 with the ineptitude of the Colts. I'll be all over this game today, I can tell you right now. Is there any of the other games I'm going to bet? I don't think so. I might bet the Lions. I don't know yet. Can actually make 5 bets today if I want, but I probably won't. Where was I? Oh, I jumped ahead. The Patriots 2.5. I'll take the Patriots 2.5 over the Dolphins. Must win for really both teams, but a more must win for the Patriots. Again, Mac Jones has been playing much better. This team has really beaten themselves the last couple of weeks, and they need to get a win in the worst way here. They are banged up badly. Marcus Jones being out, he's become an offensive weapon as well as special teams and a little bit on defense. He's become an all-purpose player. Reminds me of a little Troy Brown, the reverse, because he's a defensive player that's playing offense rather than the other way around. But they'll miss him today, as well as the secondary's banged up in general. And Stevenson also is playing on a bad leg. Giants I like. Again, I can't believe this game is only 3.5. I'll be all over this game. The Giants have played well. Daniel Jones, go look at the numbers, guys. Daniel Jones, he may not be throwing 30 touchdown passes, but who's he going to throw 30 touchdown passes to? You look at his peripherals, they are really, really good. And he has shown that he will be this quarterback that Giants will trust going forward. Mark my words. The Eagles, -6.5 over the Saints. I took the Eagles just because I cannot take the Saints. The Saints are terrible in a terrible division, and the Eagles are home, and I think Minshew can get the job done here. Buccaneers, I'll take them because they're at home. It's the only reason. Carolina's somehow miraculously stayed in the hunt. What's ironic here is when Al and I did our preview, I picked Carolina to win this division and the Bucs not to make the playoffs at all. And there's still a chance I will be right, but all of the reasons I thought they would have made the playoffs are gone. I won't even take credit for the Carolina making the playoffs here because if it happens, because I thought it was going to be because Matt Rule finally got it and put it together that Baker Mayfield was going to find a home and he and Richie Anderson were going to get on the same page and make great plays together. And Christian McCaffrey was going to stay healthy finally and have a great year. None of those guys are even here. The Commanders and the Browns. I'm going to take the Commanders in this game despite Carson Wentz. The quarterback, the criminal quarterback to remain nameless that plays for the Browns has been rusty. I don't think he's that good anyway. Another guy who puts up numbers when he did play, put up good numbers, but can't win big games. I do think the Cleveland Browns, you heard it here first, Ryan Day, if not this year, then next year. If the Browns are looking for a coach this year, he might miss out. But I still think Ryan Day will be the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Mike Vrabel will be the next coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Jacksonville, definitely over the hapless Houston Texans. Their Super Bowl chance was beating the Cowboys a few weeks ago, and they did not finish the job. I will take listen, Jacksonville's played really well. They're 7-8, but they were in all these games. You are what your record says you are, but there's been very few games they have not had a chance to win, and some they should have won that they lost. You'd have to learn how to win in this league. I'm going to take the Raiders, even with all the nonsense going on, plus 5.5 at home against the 49ers, only because Brock Purdy's banged up a little bit. The 49ers, I just feel like this is a place where the Raiders may rally a little bit. I don't know. I just have a feeling in this game, and that's all I can tell you. The Jets, I think, with their backs to the wall and Mike White back in the saddle at quarterback, will play well on the road and beat Seattle here and keep their slim, very slim playoff hopes alive. I do like the Packers actually to beat the Vikings today. I think they're playing very good football. I think the guy that we all hate, and Aaron Rodgers is playing the best football of the year for him so far. This team is playing well, has beat some good football teams, and they're at home. On the road, I would have taken Minnesota. Chargers, there's a team to watch out for. In the playoffs, I'll give you a couple of teams right now. The Chargers are getting healthy. They're just now, the last few weeks, getting their weapons healthy. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, getting them all in the field at the same time for Herbert. And they're getting a little healthier on defense as well. This team should have an easy time with the Rams today, and watch out for them in the playoffs. Tonight, the Ravens and the Steelers. I'm actually going to take the Steelers plus 3.5. They've been playing much better football. The defense has played better. The Ravens are kind of limping to the finish line. And I'm going to take the points here. And I think this could be a field goal game. Baltimore might win, but I think it'll be a field goal game. And I'm going to switch my pick here to the Bills because I want the Bills to win and wrap up the division. The only reason I will take the Bills. And that's it. That's our picks. What do you guys got? Comments? Where are we? Come, I don't have any banner up here. Must be a few comments here. Bucks win today. They clinched the division. Yes. Do or die for the Panthers. I do think Tom Brady finds a way to get this win done at home. Gardner Minshew, best backup quarterback in football? I don't know. Who the hell knows? How about Brock Purdy? Right? I would call, again, I mean, how can I say Brock Purdy's not that guy, Drew? Sam Darnold played really well, by the way. He rejuvenated his career here the last couple of this month or so. Very small sample size, but all these guys have a small sample size, right? So that's actually, and Mike White played pretty well. So there's some pretty good guys around there. But yes, Minshew, he's had his moments. Played well last week for the most part. 5 is risky in the NFL today, but I'm pulling for you if you decide to do so. 5? Oh, yes, it is 5. 5 picks? Yeah, I don't know. I've got 5 picks available to me. And I should say today and tomorrow, but I don't know. I don't know that I like 5 games, and I'm not going to, make a wager just for the sake of making a wager. Sam Darnold back in the saddle again, as we just said, playing really good football the last month. Taking the Giants in a lock, Browns in an upset. I like the Giants. I think that I would call the Giants my lock today. My upset today, how about the Bills? I guess it's not a big upset though, right? Fantasy Baseball League, Keith, missed hockey opportunity. What does that mean? Missed hockey opportunity. I have Fantasy Baseball League. Well, I'm already in a couple, so I don't know if I want to run another one or not. We'll see. Hockey, I've never done a fantasy league. I wouldn't even know how to approach it, but something we can consider. And maybe CA, we can probably do something. If we do a baseball league, it's going to be very simple because I'm already in a daily league that Drew runs. We do a fantasy baseball league. It's going to be a weekly. It's going to be a simple one, just because I don't have time to get into anymore. But we can certainly look into it. Remind me as we get closer. Justin Herbert has been god awful as a fantasy quarterback this year, especially recently. Well, he's winning games though, right? This team is playing better or as well as any team in football right now, in my mind. And I would trust Justin Herbert come playoff time. Is he up there in the elite? Not yet, but he will be. Hang on, I got a text here. I want to make sure it's nothing important. Oh, it's PayPal. Somebody put money in my account. Thank you. All right. What do you guys, listen, we've only got a few minutes left, but real quick, and we can talk about anything you want here. This is going to be your forum for the next, 12 minutes ish. Well, one thing I wanted to talk about was some of the top stories of 2025. We talked about some of them on the Are You Serious show Friday. A lot of my top stories took place off the field. On the field, I'll give you a couple. Aaron Judge's remarkable historical season, betting on himself, number one, and number two, having one of the best statistical seasons in the history of baseball. And depending on how you feel about steroids, maybe the best. So that was one of the big stories on the field. Dusty Baker getting his World Series victory. The Rams finally winning a Super Bowl. What else did I jot down here on the field? Georgia getting over the hump, finally winning that national championship after 41 years. Houston and Baker, I said. Stafford, I said. The Olympics, we had a weird Olympic game without the Russians. The Russians are pariahs now when it comes to international sports. But to me, some of the bigger things happened off the field. I talked about retirement and some of the biggest names in sports. I lost my list, so we're going to have to rough it here. I had it right in front of me from the other day. No, oh, there it is. Starting with, in my mind, with Coach K from Duke retires. The winningest coach of all time. Changed college basketball for the better. Serena Williams. Whatever you think of tennis, Serena Williams and Roger Federer are two of the biggest names in the history of tennis, especially over the last couple of decades, and very important people that are walking away. Louis Pauls. If he'd only played his entire career as a Cardinal, I think this would be a bigger story. But he left for nearly 10 years, came back. His career suddenly resurrected the last 6 weeks of the season as he made his run at 700 and actually got it. Great job. Goodbye. Good riddance. Not good riddance. Sorry. Happy trails to you. Lionel Messi, we're talking about, Kenny always wants me to talk about other sports. Lionel Messi in soccer, big retirement. I had another one. Sue Bird, WNBA. Help put the WNBA on the map. 18 years with the Seattle Storm. it was a fun story to watch her this year and follow. I don't follow the WNBA, day in and day out, but I've tracked this story through the year, and I think she's done very well. Other stories off the field: the college football realignment and the blowing up of the college landscape continuing, and it will continue. The TV contracts and announcer shuffling within TV. The way we watch TV sports is about to change. It's already changing, and it's about to change even more. You're going to have more games available to you. You're going to have to figure out and pay for them wherever they are. There'll be less big games on broadcast TV over the next 5 years until you're paying pretty much for every big game you've got to watch. Maybe it'll work out cheaper for you. Who knows? Unlikely. So those were a few things that I threw out there. I'd love to get your guys' comments here on some of these big stories before we run out of time. If we go a couple minutes over, if I don't get this thing on Roku, I don't care. I really don't. Drew's got a little bit of baseball news in here, which is fine. Let me go back. We already got a few here. Judge named Male Athlete of the Year. Great story, Aaron Judge. And if you're a Yankee fan and didn't want him back, man, I don't know what you're thinking about. TCU's playoff run is a good story. Absolutely. Probably, I would think they need to finish it off to really be like a top huge story of the year that we'll remember going forward. I think they need to finish the job. We'll see. Some bud, even if I had time. I don't enjoy the grind of the day. Oh, I hate that. I don't hate it, but it's different, and it's, keeping up with multiple ones would be nearly impossible. But a hockey daler is slower and a blast. We can start mid-season. CA. Why don't we just start one up now? Baseball news: Billy McKinney returns as I said. Willie Calhoun signs with the Yankees. Awesome. Great. Thank you for that, though, Drew. Unfortunately, we did lose many sports stars this year, and most recently the great Pele. And I'll probably tackle that maybe in my vlog next week, as I like to do that and certainly recognize those guys and putting the bigger stories together. I like to separate it from top stories, right, that'll affect us going forward. But certainly the guys that we lost from our youth is very important to me. And there's been a lot of them this past year. And I will certainly reflect on that, most likely with next week's vlog. Evan Longoria signs with the Diamondbacks. This is Drew giving us some baseball news, by the way, not one of the top stories of the year. Why would the Diamondbacks sign Longoria? Oh, my God. I just can't get into this. Why? My gosh, these teams. I would give you that one, I guess, Alan. NFC East turnaround from an awful 2020 season. Again, I'd like to see them. I think we have to see how it plays out, right? Because we're still 2 weeks left in the season. We haven't started the playoffs. I really can't make that call, but that's got the possibility. Well, there's Kenny. Shows up right at the end. Kenny finding the show is one of the big stories of the year. Every Sunday, it's shocking. I kid you, Kenny. Yes, Happy New Year, Kenny. Good to have you with us. Cubs reportedly in promising talks with Hosmer. Drew, are you just finding all the guys with ridiculously bad contracts or just meaningless signings to share with us today? Eric Hosmer. Brittany Griner, big story, whether you agree with it, whatever side of this you're on, whether you think ridiculously, you shouldn't think she should be left there. She has not been a very friendly, had been very friendly to her own country up until that she needed them. But one of the reasons we needed to get her out is who we are as a country. We don't decide who should be saved and who shouldn't. And remember, the trade wasn't, we brought her home, but we left the the Marine over there. It wasn't an either or thing, right? We don't make ourselves look better as a country by leaving her there, no matter what her thoughts are about the country she lives in, which I don't agree with. What do you got there? Sorry. Oh, you said that. Baseball sucks. The big story of the year for Kenny, baseball sucks. And that's not this year, though, for you, Kenny. That's in general. Only because Russia being at war. Well, the Russians always want to be at war. Have fun with Willie. LOL. Not a good player. No, I know. I'm not excited by either one of those signings. I can tell you right now. Excellent. Kenny's got a New Year's resolution to get stoned more. How are you going to track your success here, Kenny? What's the bar? I mean, I don't know whether to say you're doing a good job or a bad job without Franco Harris. Yes, definitely. We'll get into this more again next week with the great players we've lost and sportsmen we've lost as well. He is one of a kind, isn't he? Joker being deported. I don't know if I call that one of the top stories, but I get it. Again, you can fall on either side of this. But if you're going to come here, you got to abide by the rules. Same way if you go to Russia, abide by the rules. Yay, Cubbies. Alan, if you're excited about that news, and by the way, it's funny. I did see on a debate show yesterday a podcast about whether it's okay to root for two teams in the same sport. I weighed in with a very strong no. Paid a big price for him. Her. We did, but I'm not going to, we don't have time to debate it, and I don't really care to. It is a big story, though. I mean, as I said, whichever side of this you're on, my only opinion is the fact that we don't show who we are as a country by leaving her there. We just don't. That's an excellent question, Drew, and I guess that's probably the point I was trying to get to is how will we know? My chatter gets better, and I'm doing a good job. I don't know, Kenny. You're typing awful good today, so you're either higher or you're lower. I don't know which. I guess we'll have to talk to your wife and find out what that's all about. All right, guys. You can put up a couple more as I get ready to head out of here. Good job today. It's wonderful. I love the banter. CA, even though I 100% disagree with you, I love the fact that we can debate back and forth. And as I say all the time with all of you guys, love what you bring to the show. I love that you disagree with me. I love the fact that we can argue in this room and we part friends every time, because that's what this is about. That's what this country's about. And I want to have more of that in the new year. The collapse of Broncos country. They've already started collapsing, though, Alan. They've been horrible. They've been pretty bad for a few years. Have they been in the playoffs in Peyton Manning time? Started at 6:30. Sweet. Good job. Got less than a minute here. Happy New Year, Carlos. Happy New Year to all you guys. Thanks for all you've brought to the show through the years. The guys who have been with me for a long time, our new people like CA. Where'd the music go? Start it back up. The guys like CA and Anthony who have found us this year, thank you for joining us. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for making the show what it is and making this is why I do it. I do it to have fun. And I have a blast with you guys. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to your families, and we'll catch you in 2023. Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talk right here on the Northeast Sports.